Okay, I think I was taking too long with going over the verses. I'm just gonna read them and move on because this is a long doctrine. And so let's hurry it up. What does it say? Stop loving the world or anything in it. If anyone loves the world, and this applies to you, to me, to anyone, any of us believers. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father, this is the objective genitive of patros, pater, the love for the Father, problem solving device number 7. This love that you build up in gate 5, a spiritual adulthood. This love for the Father is not in him, is not in him. Why is that? Because you are spend too much time in the cosmic system. You love it too much that you remain in there. So, meaning that you are not spending your time in the divine power sphere where you advance all the way to having personal love for God the Father. Verse 16, why it tells you, it explains to you, because all that is in the world, and it explains all the things, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the sin nature, that's temptation, knocking at you to get outside of the divine power sphere and get back and get into the cosmic system. The lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes. Eyes means perception, a high mind, arrogance. This has to do with gate 1 of Cosmic 1, motivational arrogance, and we'll talk about what these things are in a bit. I'm just going to give it to you. The lust of the eyes. This is all the arrogance, mental attitude sins of gate 1. And the arrogant pattern of life. These are all the gates, functional arrogance of gate 2, of gate 1, pardon me, Cosmic 1, all the other gates. There we are. Is not from the Father, but from the world. It's not from the source of the Father, but from the source of the world. Keep that in mind. All right, we have other verses. Let's hurry up. But you see the necessity for us to not be loving the world, but continue inside of the cosmic system, inside the divine power sphere. James 4:4. James 4:4. Let's look at this. It says, you adulterous people. And what is it talking about? Were Christians literally being adulterers? There were probably some, but this is not talking about literal adultery. It's talking about spiritual adultery. They're reversionists. They're having affair, going back to the old husband, the sin nature, being inside of the cosmic system, as we're going to see here. So, you adulterers, do you not know? You need to know doctrine on the spiritual life, because ignorance is going to become your enemy. Do you not know that the love of the world, this is the objective genitive, that friendship, philia, this is a word for friend, but this also means love. Friendship with the cosmic system is enmity with God. So if you want to be loving the cosmic system, you make yourself an enemy of God. It's as simple as that. So, do you not know that friendship with the cosmic system is enmity with God? Whoever, here we are, therefore, whoever desires, wishes to be a friend of the world, appoints himself an enemy of God. It's as simple as that. If you want to be loving the cosmic system, you make yourself an enemy of God. You're not using 1 John 1:9, therefore you're not inside the divine power sphere. You're becoming an enemy of God. And verse 5, here we use an anthropopathism. Or do you presume, dokeo means subjective thinking, or do you presume that vainly or without a purpose the writing says, and now we have an anthropopathism, pros photonon, face to face with jealousy. This is the mental attitude sin of jealousy, but we know that God does not sin. We're using an anthropopathism to demonstrate how he has jealous love for someone. This is not necessary. Is more of an ardent desire for someone, to the point that if you reject that someone, he becomes angry. He feels like he's the one that's being rejected as well. Have you ever backed up a friend of yours and that friend is rejected and you yourself felt rejected as well? Okay, we're using that anthropopathism, okay? Face to face with jealousy. Epipoteo, he desires face to face with jealousy, the spirit which dwells, which he calls to dwell, and plus the dative of ego in us. So the Holy Spirit, the indwelling, this is a reference to the indwelling of the Holy Spirit inside of your body. But because you choose to be a friend with the freaking world, yes, you are not being filled with the Holy Spirit. With that Holy Spirit that's indwelling you, you're not feeling it. And the fact that you're rejecting the Holy Spirit, God uses an anthropopathism to express that face to face with jealousy. He longs for that spirit which he calls to dwell in you, to indwell you. You're pushing it aside, and this, as an anthropopathism, arouses the jealousy of God. So, what do we do? What do we do with this anthropopathism? It explains his policy. He wants you. He gave you the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Therefore, he expects you to match it with the filling of the Holy Spirit. So, you must make sure you use 1 John 1:9 and be in the divine powers here, because if you become a friend of the world, you're in the cosmic system, not filled with the Holy Spirit, not fulfilling the expectations, the demands of the indwelling of the Holy Spirit inside of you. And then verse 6, I think we can move on. Verse 6 talks about, but he gives greater grace, super grace, to the opposite, those who are humble. Okay, let's move on because I am running out of time. This is James chapter 4, verse 4. Romans 12:3, a wonderful passage. We've seen this one many, many times. Romans chapter 12, verse 3. And it says, before that, in case you're trying to find, it says, and stop being conformed, Stop being conformed to this world, ion, look, to the cosmic system. But rather, be transformed by means of the renewal of your mind, so that you can prove what the will of God is, the good. Hope 1, hope 2, hope 3 turns out to be good of divine, good of the hope equation, and the well-pleasing, the fact that you've arrived at super grace and you are in the status of divine acceptance in maturity and mature. You are now complete using the 10 problem-solving devices. And then verse 3, it says, for I say, here's the NIV, for I say, I speak to you, through the grace which has been given to me, to all of you who is amongst you, to stop thinking in terms of arrogance. Huperphroneo, this is the word for arrogance. Of course, what is arrogance? This word gives us a little bit as to what arrogance means. Huper means above, plus phroneo means thinking, to think above, higher than what you ought to think. And so this embarks all these areas, this covers all areas of pride, arrogance, self-importance, self-love, excessive self-esteem, all these different things, conceit, vanity. So this word, we choose arrogance to explain this whole realm of thinking higher than what you ought to think. Divorcement from reality, preoccupation with self, forming illusions about yourself, loving yourself too much. And that is contrary to the plan of God. So it says, stop thinking in terms of arrogance beyond that which is necessary to think, or rather beyond what you ought to think. So this is cosmic 1, stop thinking in terms of arrogance beyond what you ought to think, cosmic 2. But think in terms of sanity, orientation to reality, grace orientation. Think in terms of sanity, to each one as God apportioned a standard of doctrine. He has given us a standard of doctrine. Do not go beyond that standard of doctrine. You've been given this portion of doctrine. Use it, remain there. Don't go beyond. Don't go out there and try to change something. Go try to do this and that. That's great. You remain with the doctrine that you have. And that's humbling. It is humbling. But sometimes we're not satisfied. We want more and more. Okay. Now, that's Romans chapter 12, verse 3. Also, 1 Corinthians 10:21. Now, I'm preparing you. I want you to see the mutual exclusiveness of the cosmic system and the divine power sphere. There's nothing in between. They're absolutes. Either you're in or you're out. 1 Corinthians 10:21 talks about this. The divine power sphere versus idolatry. And it says, flee from idolatry. Where does it say that? Therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. Yes, run away from idolatry. There's some things that God says, all right, just stay. But there's some things where God just says, no, run away. You don't have to deal with that. Run away. So flee idolatry. Run away. Okay. Consider the people. See the people of Israel according to the flesh, according to their race here. Do not those who eat the sacrifice participate in the altar? Do I mean then that food sacrificed to an idol is anything? Or that an idol is anything? No, but the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons. So idolatry is demon worship. Remember that. Not to God. And I do not want you to be participants with demons. And then verse 21. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. So again, mutual exclusiveness. You cannot drink the cup, partake in the communion table of the Lord and the fake counterfeit communion table of Satan. Of course, we see that Satan has counterfeited a communion table, and you cannot partake in that. Here it is idolatry. You cannot have part in both the Lord's table and in the table of demons. It's as simple as that. You cannot have two masters. You will love one and you will despise the other. All those verses about two masters talk about this, the mutual exclusiveness of being inside the divine power sphere versus the cosmic system. Just as in phase 1, either you're a believer or you're an unbeliever, nothing in between. Same with phase 2, either you're in the system or you're out in the system, nothing in between. Are we trying to arouse the Lord's jealousy? Anthropopathism. Are we stronger than he? Of course we are not. That's a rhetorical question. And we are not stronger than him. Okay. So, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Remember this passage? We went over this one. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. And it says, the passage of say to stop hanging out with unbelievers. This is crooked, right? Well, I'm not going to get distracted with it. Yes, it's very crooked. Very, very crooked. Alright. It says, stop being unequally yoked with unbelievers. And then it explains you the reason why. For what share is there between? What share does righteousness and lawlessness have? In other words, nothing. There's no share, nothing in between, nothing in common. Or what fellowship does light have face to face with darkness? None at all. Or what harmony, what agreement between Christ and Belial? Belial is worthlessness. Or what part does the believer have with the unbeliever? Or what agreement the temple of God with the temple of idols? So here it gives you the mutual exclusiveness, nothing in between. There's no share between righteousness and lawlessness. And by now you should be able to see that either you're in the divine power sphere or in the cosmic system. We'll go over 1 John right now in the next video.